Welcome to another KamicarzCreation video. It's conversion time. The R31 is going manual conversion. Building it fairly strong. I want to turbo this car eventually, but first stage is building it strong. It's always been my focus with this car, build it strong. I'm going to do the drive shaft and I'm going to do the diff all in the one go. So we'll go and have a little bit of a talk about that. Keep watching. So here's the plan, people. Skyline build. First part is the manual conversion, so got to buy all of the parts. RB25DET box, the Stegira master and slave. They're actually a bigger bore in the master cylinder and the slave cylinder than the R31. The clutch pedal, I'm just using a second-hand clutch pedal. I've heard that the original ones are the best, so I've found an original one and that's what I'll be installing in. That's not the most fun job to do up under the dash. I'm going to use a light and flywheel, and I'm going to use an Exceedy clutch. The gearbox doesn't come with the shift, so I have to buy one of those, and I'm going to convert the drive shaft to a solid drive shaft, like a one-piece drive shaft instead of having the center bearing. And again, the gear can handle up to 500 horsepower in its stock form. That's what I'm aiming for. So the drive shaft that I get built, I'll give them specs up to 500 horsepower for it. On the other side of it, we're going to do the diff. It's no use having that size horsepower in the gearbox and drive shaft. We don't do the diff. So going to stick a stronger limited slip diff in and restore the rear calipers and put some new rotors on it, some new disc rotors on it. So we'll have a look at that as we work through, but that's the plan. Here's the actual shopping list from Just Japanese Spares, and you can see all the parts that I purchased for this installation. Everything, there's a few parts that came from RB factory, like the cross member, but most of it's here. There's a manual conversion. And in the top there, in here is all the clutch, pressure plate, flywheel, master cylinder, slave cylinder, pretty much everything you need. I've also bought a few parts off RB factory. I've made a fair bit of progress so far on the rear end. Removed all the brake calipers, the discs, the axles. So the other axle sitting over there, these R28 splines, so the bigger axle in the R31. And I'm just setting up now to take out the diff center and build it all back up again. So I've just unboxed this. Here's the box to it, an RTS traction system they call it. It was about 950 bucks, which I think is pretty good. So there's my diff center all out, and I've just lined everything up for the right sides so that I can check these bearings, see how good they are, whether they need replacing, and then start building up this diff center so I can put it. So here we are inside the diff housing, and there was one packer this side and one packer this side. So I just got to do a heap of measurements, make sure it all works with the new diff center and all the alignments right. I've got to clean off all of this gasket and get it ready for reassembly. Just a little update on this RTS limited slip diff for the R31 Skyline. Fits others, but that's how it was advertised. It fits in beautifully. So when I pulled this apart, I was very conscious of the thrust washers that are in here, were in here originally. So there's a thrust washer on the left and a thrust washer on the right to give the required amount of backlash. Now I checked that backlash before I put the diff center in with the old diff center, and then rechecked it with this one, and it's pretty much exactly the same. So it was a little bit to get it in there, like there's not a lot of clearance in this whole assembly in here. I did fit brand new bearings, tapered roller bearings on the new diff center, which were really nice, and made sure those were seated right down onto the shoulder, which they were. And then before I did try to assemble it, and it was a little bit tight to get one thrust washer in, so I just linished the thrust washers, really taking any high spots or any little dents or anything out of them just from when it came out. Just linished them, really started on an oil stone and then went into a little bit of wet and dry just to polish the surface, make sure they were perfectly flat, and then reassembled it, and it went in really nicely with that little bit of backlash that's there. So that's friggin' awesome. So I just thought I would show you that, because I have just done the diff housing cover plate. Just cleaned all it up and painted it all, and I'm just about to glue that in. As I said, cleaned this up, painted it up. I haven't done anything with the rest of the diff. I didn't pull the diff housing out, but gave this a really good clean up. I've only got the original bolts at the moment. They're there and pretty gnarly. I'll give them a little bit of a clean up, but I might eventually replace them with a zinc bolt just to make it look pretty. But as I said, the rest of the diff hasn't been taken out, hasn't been cleaned up, and hasn't been painted. Just the little bits that I've done and had off. Some 35-year-old Skyline brakes, and as you can see, they've been sitting on the car for a fair while. Even though they were working reasonably well, the handbrake wasn't working at all, and it's all part of the mechanism you can see here in this photo at the top. So I just pulled them apart in a process and laid them out on the bench, because I hadn't done it before and I didn't have a schematic, and just lined them up. As I pulled the parts off, everything was pretty tight and pretty dry, but eventually they came apart. You can see them here lined up in the disassembly process. I bought a whole new kit for each of the calipers, including a new piston and all new seals, and so I basically pulled it all apart, cleaned them all up, and got them ready to put the new seals in. Here you can see the end result, basically one caliper against the other, and I'm pretty happy with that process. I'm really happy with the result on these calipers, with the painted parts and the polished parts, and it's assembled up, and I've used one of the, I think it was RB Factory, used their braided brake line to finish it all off. So I've gone with staying with the original caliper, because on this I'm running the original axle, which are 4 studders. So there's not a lot of option staying with the 4 studders. There are a few little options out there. I think RB Factory do a few adapters, and you can get up to, I think they do an adapter for a 300mm rotor. Don't quite. I've gone for this J type grooved disc rotor over the originals. Don't know how much better that will be, but originally I pulled this all apart mainly because of the handbrake was locking on, and the handbrake mechanism is a part of that caliper, which is a real mongrel to work with and get it all back together. This caliper on this side, I have pulled it apart and put it back together about 10 times, I reckon, just learning. I did take a lot of photos, but there were things that I missed, and just the way it assembled and the way it went together, which I'll show you when I do the next one. I'll give you more of a detailed look at it when I do the next one. But anyway, it's looking really nice, and if I can get up here behind it, show you the assembly, and you can reference it if you do this job yourself. back on and the handbrake mechanism is set up. The spring's back on, I've got it in the right position, the piston is pulled all the way back. These are all things you've got to think about. I did paint this outside part, painted it black, so I gave it a good wire brush and cleaned it all up and then painted it black. And again, there's new seals on it that came with the seal kit. Here's a few images looking through the mag, through the hot wires, with those VMAX brake rotors. I'm pretty happy, you know, with the silver and black, everything looks good, matches the rims, really happy with the result. And this was just one side. So here's the other side, showing you a little bit more of the detail of the new seals and how they all go together. It was a bit of a problem getting the main rubber on the piston, but overall it wasn't a bad job and it's all gone together quite successfully. Really happy with those braided brake lines as well. They look awesome. So guys, the hoist is clear. That means the Skyline's outside. First phase done. Diff build and brakes are done. Time to go and test it. Here you see the original sandwich plate, the automatic sandwich plate, and the automatic bearing in the crankshaft. That bearing needs to come out. The bore beyond that bearing, deeper in, is actually a larger size, so there's a little lip. I use these bearing pullers that are a kit for my motorbike to pull motorbike bearings out. They telescope up with a little knurled nut, and you can see where I've machined the actual device a little bit to increase that lip on the very end of the jig. You can see it a bit more here, and it popped out pretty easily. Rightio, we're up under the car, and as you can see, all the old auto stuff is out from the diff, start of the drive shaft, right up to the gearbox. I have just put that new sandwich plate. Is a two-piece unit, so you can get into the torque converter bolts when you've got to take the gearbox off. This one is a solid piece, so it's new and on there, and I'm just getting pressure plate on. But anyway, I'll walk you through the disassembly. Heaps of blokes out there have done videos on this. I'm not going to go through it all again. I'll just tell you about my experience of it. The oil lines running from the up in here, you can see two oil lines, one over there and there's one over here. They run all the way under that over that cross member and down to the gearbox. One goes to the left hand side of the gearbox and the other one goes to the right hand side. The worst side was taking those oil lines off. There is a bracket up on top of the subframe, which is a nightmare. They're a little 10mm socket to undo them, but they're just tight. The ones on the outside aren't too bad, but still they take a lot to screw them out. They don't come loose and then take them out with your fingers. You've got to screw them all the way. So that was a little bit of a nightmare. There are electrical cables. So you've got to actually take the battery tray out and you'll see the electrical cables. You drop the cross member off and drop the gearbox down to get the two top bolts. You can see those lines. You can see where they're going. Clip, or there's a few cable ties in through the engine bay that you need to clip off. But just make sure you disconnect them before you drop the gearbox out. Identify what they are once you drop the back of that gearbox down. Now I also did separate the exhaust because I wanted to drop that gearbox down, and it just helps you tilt everything. So with the gearbox on here, you get a lot more clearance up the top and a super long, multiple extensions together from the back of the gearbox to get to those two bolts. is the easiest way with that gearbox weighing it all down, weighing the motor down. You can see right up there and get to those. All of the others are pretty easy. So I haven't done anything on the inside yet. I basically have done it all from underneath. I've fitted up the light and flywheel. It's an extreme light and flywheel, chrome moly, and I've installed the new MT bolts, the flywheel bolts, and I've installed the little bearing to hold the nose of the gearbox. Here I've used the dummy shaft to install the clutch in the right alignment, and then I've fitted up the pressure plate. And again, use Loctite. All the bolts have been tensioned to the correct tension as per spec. The box slid in really well with that alignment tool all set up. I just had to rotate a little bit for where the starter motor is, and it slid in quite well, and then rotated it back around. Here you can see the RB factory custom mount for the RB25 gearbox in the R31, and it fits up perfectly. Came with nylocks and washers, and I bought the mounting pad for it as well. So it's all fitted up really nice. You can see there I've actually fitted the Stegira slave cylinder in position, and she's all ready to go. I'm just starting to install the clutch pedal, which isn't a favourite job, but once it's done, it's done. So I've used multiple tools to get this stage because I didn't want to grind it with a big grinder the whole way through. So I used a little Dremel to get most of the way, and I'm just cutting through the rib on the back. It gives it support at the moment with the big grinder. The brake pedal will be reduced. Clutch pedal done. Man, that's a job and a half for a 61-year-old laying on his back looking up under the dash, I tell you. But anyway, it's in there. I'll show you up in there in a second. Clutch pedal that I bought, I found the mounting pins had cracks around them, so I did a little bit of TIG welding to tighten it up, but generally it's up. So you can see that little bolt on the front, that was the hard one to get in. It was just slightly out of alignment, like I could have pushed the clutch pedal further towards the engine bay, but I had it screwed up in the engine bay as tight as I could, and it was just a little bit out. So I end up using a small rat tail file and just chipping away at it to the point where I could get the bolt to go in straight, because before that the bolt would just go in an angle and lock up, and I wouldn't get it to pull up onto the actual bodywork, so it was still sort of loose. But I finally did it, got it up in there. That's been well over an hour just getting that little bolt in. Anyway, it's in there now. I'll show you in the engine bay. There's the master cylinder in the engine bay. You can see one bolt down there and the other bolt at the top. And it just sits in nice and snug. Note the little curve in the firewall there to accommodate the master cylinder. But yeah, that's really nice. It's in there, it's locked up. It's got the two bolts in the firewall holding it, and that little bolt, which is a 3-point to make it nice and solid, and it's sitting in there. So I'm looking forward to pressing that and feeling hydraulic pressure. And here is the last piece of the puzzle, the drive shaft. This is the way it came, beautifully wrapped in bubble wrap, very cared for. Here it is unwrapped, all painted and balanced. And I want to give a huge shout out to Universal Drive Shaft Service. Steve there knew the right questions to ask and made the shaft to my specs. And it's a really nice product. It was probably about a week's turnaround when I asked to get it, and awesome. Well, I just fitted up that drive shaft, run through, it's perfect. It just lined up perfectly, slid in perfectly, and it's very nice. I had to get up inside the car and put that circlip in that I was missing in the shift mechanism. But that's all in there now, and the shift doesn't pop out. Here's my shifter. Now in the rubber boot part of the shifter there is a nylon locator, and in the gearbox there is also another nylon locator. Those two parts come together to encapsulate the whole ball of the shift. This is the circlip I was missing, and this is the snap ring that holds the bottom part of the locator in. So now I've got it all fitted up. You can see the shift in position, and it won't come out now. That bottom circlip is held in by the snap ring that comes with the gearbox. I hope that makes sense. So here's the sandwich plate that RB Factory provided, which I think is an R34 thing, but it fits in perfectly and bolts into the original holes of the automatic shift and has that R34 boot style there. The final stages. The shift is in, all looking really good. This is still the automatic shift surround, and I'm probably going to trim this up. I've bought a leather boot online, $10, stitched up, and I'm sure I'll be able to fit that up to make it look good. It's got blue stitching because the car is blue, and I fitted the original R34 shift knob, again from Just Japanese Spares, but it looks good. Really happy with the result. I'm happy it doesn't pop out anymore, and I'm very happy to have a gear stick inside the car. Down in here also I bought two new pads, one for the clutch and one for the brake, and it looks good. The brake pedal reduction has worked well, the clutch pedal fit up has gone well, and we are now manual. Last phase, pumping some oil into the gearbox before we head out for a drive.